Coming to you from the Ultra Staff Studios in Chicago, welcome to the Staffing Buzz Network with your host, Bob Petke. Hello and welcome back to this edition of the Staffing Buzz Network. I am Bob Petke. I am your host, and I am also the Chief Sales Officer here at Automated Business Designs, where we provide a ATS solution to staffing companies just like yours called Ultra Staff Edge. And so it's not uncommon for us to talk to folks who are interested in learning about our full front office, back office platform that has some great AI tools built into it. One of them being a tool that will help you find candidates to get them to work. So yeah, we'll talk more about that as we conclude. But again, as far as the Staffing Buzz Network goes, for those of you who watched this before, we do spend a lot of time talking to people that are in the industry or partner with the industry. And today's no exception. So we have a special guest on. Alisa Vossen is going to be joining us. And Alisa Vossen is a strategic branding and marketing expert specializing in helping organizations elevate their brand presence and accelerate growth through innovative strategies, compelling video production, and impactful social media marketing. As CEO of 522 Productions, she leads a creative team dedicated to crafting authentic stories that connect with a target audience and inspire action. A little bit more about Alisa in the group with the extensive experience that she has with the organization. She has experience with marketing and consulting. Alisa focuses on guiding brands through complexities of strategic brand development, online delivering tailored solutions that encompass content creation, digital marketing, and multimedia storytelling. Her extensive knowledge level takes her to a space and place that it helps organizations build cohesion, brand identity, amplifying their message online, and driving the business to make it more profitable. Alisa also tackles one of the biggest brand challenges that she's seeing in the market today, which is building a strong online presence to attract top talent through targeted, content-driven campaigns, which applies to a variety of industries. Her expertise in strategic brand development, combined with her knowledge of talent acquisition, enables her to create tailored solutions that drive company growth, enhance recruitment efforts, and foster long-term organizational success. Alisa is very passionate, as we'll get a chance to see today. And she does this by leveraging multimedia storytelling and digital marketing channels to boost visibility and engagement. She often speaks on topics such as branding, recruitment, marketing, and digital trend for talent acquisition. Known for her innovative approach, and we'll talk about that. Known for her innovative approach and strategic insight, Alisa helps organizations stand out in competitive markets, attracting the right customers and candidates that fuels growth through targeted, effective application of brand and marketing strategies. So there's a whole lot there to unpack, and we're going to go ahead and bring Alisa on today. Alisa, glad to have you on the Staffing Buzz Network.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to dive into this discussion. I have lots to say, so you may have to corral me a little bit.
Okay. I'm known to corral a little bit here and there, so yeah, and my kids like the Golden Corral, which is a whole different story, off topic. But again, I'm sales minded. I see something shiny, and I kind of go in that direction. But let me go ahead and get grounded here. So let's go ahead and get started right away. Let's start with your background. How did you get into marketing, and how has that evolved into this work that you're doing today?
Well, so I started about 2 decades ago, so that kind of dates me a little bit here, but I started actually working at an advertising agency in the Washington, D.C. area. And I didn't actually have a marketing background. I had a business and psychology background, thinking I was going to go into psychology, but
Sure.
I sort of fell into marketing a little bit. And as I was there, I sort of grew from like the traffic manager to the broadcast producer to the studio manager to selling, big national campaigns as one of the lead key stakeholders, right? So, but I realized during this whole process that the one thing that I loved the most was the most impactful part of marketing in the storytelling aspect, and it really came down to video. So we knew it was going to be a powerful tool back then, but today it's even more impactful, and crazy how much video content is out in the world today that people can consume. So it's been a really unconventional but fun ride to get here.
You're talking to somebody who's trying to utilize that, from the marketing campaigns that we do as an organization. We're shooting videos for that here locally. We've got this podcast, so I get it. So let's get back to it and talk, from your perspective, Alisa, how do you think marketing has changed within the last, well, let's say 5 to 10 years when it comes to reaching out to people effectively?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think marketing at its core has not changed dramatically from what it used to be to now today. But I think what has changed dramatically is the sheer significant amount of content that anybody can consume at any given time. So what is changing is how marketers understand that distribution and understand how to break through the overwhelming amount of content that's out on these channels that we have. Plus we have multiple more channels to work with than we did back then. We didn't have social media as it's the greatest platform right now, but we had different avenues like digital, print, and media, and different classifieds, that type of stuff. So I think marketing at its core and the goals that every marketer has for its campaigns or its their roles in there are they're going to be the same. It's how you utilize the data that to break through the content and being able to like address different people and different personalities, which is something else that's completely different that we didn't have before, right? You didn't know who your audience was. You were kind of going blind, but today we know who's watching it. We know when they're watching, and very similar, Rob, probably on this podcast, when people drop off. So we tailor the content accordingly to make sure that we keep the interested parties all the way through, and when it comes to marketing now, what's even more prevalent that has changed dramatically is short form video and what it can do for brands. It's such a powerful tool that builds emotional connections, and it brings brand messaging to a more memorable and like relatable fashion versus just print. And same thing with podcasts. Like it's great to see like who I am. I'm a real person. I'm not just somebody in the back end saying I'm doing things like this. You can see the experience, right? So I love that what piece of short form video does for marketers right now. And if any marketer does not have a video marketing plan, part of their stack is really going to miss out in terms of like what they can achieve in retention, not only for clients, but for applicants who are, applying for jobs, especially in the staffing agencies.
So let's take a step back on that, right? And so let's talk a little bit more. You mentioned the short form video, the story. Your audience has different ways to see video, right? They might see it on their phone. They might see it in, through some type of a reel. I mean, how specific do you have to be? And, you talked about looking at the algorithms to measure that. I mean, how do you focus? How do you get that minute in detail to figure out how they're going to be watching it in the the format and how long or short your videos would be?
I mean, right. That is probably marketers' biggest challenge right now is
Okay.
because in order to stay relevant, stay on top of the marketing distribution, and to stay consistent, it is like 3 full-time jobs trying to like manage everything. And so I think small agencies or small staffing companies or any that don't have the resources, right, they get overwhelmed by all of this content, which is where our team excels at, because we can quickly see the data and pivot the content that we need to based on user engagement. And video tells it a lot, whether it's long form, short form. Any video should have probably 6 different deliverables to it so that you can test each one of them and the messaging that is being consumed. And once you know that information, it makes it easy for you to change up the content for the next month going on. But I do hear a lot from my clients that there's so much data, I don't know how to make a decision based on it. And it really comes down to knowing your audience. And once you know the personalities and the different primary, secondary audiences, you can then connect the data very quickly and be able to say, great, these people on this platform only like to watch 7-second animated GIFs because that's our high engagement platform. But this audience over here only likes to learn. So we're going to do a little bit longer, maybe short form minute videos on this platform that we wouldn't do on the other platform, because we know that we want to be able to give them the content that they're actually going to engage with.
Right. And I don't mean to ask that question in a way where I'm asking you to give away your secret sauce or recipe, because there is a reason. There's a reason why you have settled in and found this place and space to thrive, survive, and more than that, and to be somebody who is going to be a positive contributor and bring something to the table that a staffing company per se doesn't. That's not their level of expertise, right? Their job is to go ahead and find new clients, find people to work, match the two up, and get them paid. And that alone is a overflowing plate. So, an organization like yours, 522 Productions, you're now going to be able to add some value, not even more value, but being able to really put somebody in a position unlike they've ever been before, to be more strategic and handle their day-to-day business while you work on this end of it to make sure that their brand is where it needs to be.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie when I said I've hired a lot of third-party people and teams to help me with my own marketing, but because I know enough, I still can say this SEO isn't working and these keywords aren't attracting the right client from inbound marketing. And I can see that different content. But the one thing we've always said is if a client came to me and they have no social media presence, and literally this was a conversation I had last week, was they were like, everybody's on it, everybody's doing it, so we feel like we have to do it. And that's the wrong reason to be involved. So going back to value, you have to value what it can do for your company in a short time frame and a long-term game, because most of your presence in your reputation building and your validation as a brand within, thought leadership content comes over time. But it's about the content that we put out now to gather those micro wins within marketing. And so this is where our team comes into play and says, we're going to be a little bit more authentic with your brand. Right now, we're going to give your brand a personality and we're going to start sharing it with the world, but we're going to do it strategically. And if we're not getting the reaction from the world that we want, we're going to change it up. And it's a true collaboration where we get to use clients' expertise in their business and their industry to guide us. And then what I like to call, I unleash the creative Krakens. And I'm like, this is the goal.
Okay. You talk about longevity, because I have seen organizations, they all of a sudden try to earmark some people within the organization to take this on themselves. And they might do an okay job with it, but they don't deliver it consistently. First and foremost, they just don't have the manpower to do it. And sometimes the creative juices run out.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're working with an organization like 522 Productions, this is your space where you continue to do this, right? This is innovation, always forward thinking, always making sure that you have something that's going to be relevant and of added value. And I think most important from what you talked about when I say longevity is it's not going to just be something that's short-lived and maybe they get a little bit of traction and they back off. That you're going to collectively put together a toolkit that they can utilize, and you're the driving force of that.
Yeah. I also would like to say that tools are tools, and having the technology at our hands is a really great asset to getting to the best storytelling and the human connection that we need to build. So for clients, their steam may run out where they just can't do anymore because they're limited in capacity. But with our team is not only do we have an in-house team, but we have an external team where we can say, this is the best designer for your brand. And I think graphic designers also have limits. It's not like they can design for everything. They have things that they like and gravitate towards. And that's the same as our in-house marketing team, which is fabulous. But sometimes you got to bring in different resources to shake it up a bit. And you got to bring in an outside perspective. So I'm coming in looking at your business when we do marketing as a completely new client to you. So therefore, we can kind of see some of the gaps that are missing that they can't as an expert internally because they're not in the external space in that perspective. So I think what clients really value when working with us is that we bring an outside perspective to help them think deeper about how people want to be involved in their brand.
One of the things that I've just seen from just being out, in the business world is that sometimes people miss, what's the word that I'm looking for? They take for granted social media and its viability. What's your take on social media? And does it remain to be something, where that alone, talk about the power of that or lack thereof at this point.
The power of social media can be immense, but it tends to have different, like the roller coaster effect when it comes to businesses. Sometimes you're really engaged and you have a hot community that's really kind of talking about the same thing you are, and sometimes you're not. And I think people get really frustrated with that process, but instead of seeing it as a long-term play, that if you have a down period, you need to be sparking up different conversations versus waiting for the community to come back. I will also say social media is extremely complex and is not a very great team player when it comes to companies who are just starting out on social media. They make the algorithms extremely challenging. So anytime a new client comes to us and says, hey, we'd like to get started on social media, I'm going to recommend a growth plan because that's how we need to build the community first in order for you to have any success. Otherwise, what people are going to see is like 1-2 likes, and it's by, my mom or somebody's like uncle who's involved and knows who's posting the social media. So we really try to have our different buckets, but it is a challenge, but it is a super powerful tool. It's almost like you have to be on it for the right reasons and also be on it knowing that it's going to be a slow ramp up to get you to success.
I call that the slow roll myself. I'm with you on that for sure. But let's talk, Alisa, a little about, how do you see, because we're talking specifically about, staffing at this point, how do you see marketing and recruitment overlapping these days?
Yeah, I actually, when I saw this question, I was like, they don't really overlap. They actually complement each other.
Okay.
They need to work hand in hand in a seamless fashion, because I think the marketing teams that work on these two worlds, which is recruiting, especially recruiters, if it's HR, and then the marketing team, they need to unify their core messages to make sure that everybody's speaking the same at the same level, because, recruiters are looking at your digital footprint, not just the job description. So they want to know who they're going to be working for and how they're going to be working. What are all the requirements that come with it? How do I need to apply? And if your company doesn't have a human connection to that, where they feel like they can make that ability to connect it from recruiting, then I think it's a miss. So marketing has to be very complementary to the recruiting teams so that we can make sure that the message is cohesive, it's authentic, and it really builds a very reputable, a very validated reputation for the brands themselves.
Okay. And, you said before that, recruitment is really the beginning of retention. At least that was what I picked up on that. Can you expand on that idea?
Yeah, I think it's, one use case study that I can always give is for us. Whenever I talk to a client, I ask them, how did you find 522? And they will either tell me that we were a referral or they found us online. And so that tells me, one, our Google search is working. And two, that they are checking us out beforehand. So all clients tell me they go to my website, they read the Google reviews, they look at your social media channels, and by that they can say, this is a team that I know can do the work that I need them to do. And they are somebody that's successfully doing that, right? And I think that's for retention as well. I think applicants are going to be looking at job descriptions and only maybe reading the top 4 lines and then checking out everything else to be fully educated. Or maybe they're just looking at that job description, which means the marketing around that job description needs to be honest and truthful. You know, if they're looking for what the salary is, if they're looking for how much the hourly, you know, how is it shift work? So they're looking for lots of things. And the more that you can be honest about it, the higher your reputation goes with employees, as well as they're going to start saying to the friends, hey, I had a really great experience with this company because of their first footprint as from the marketing team all the way to the end where they got hired for the job.
So, you talk about being truth, honest, upfront, and of course, those are things that are given. But what if you find yourself where you're like, you're in a predicament where you don't ever want to cross any lines? How do you find that balance as far as, and again, I'm not trying to figure out a way to be dishonest by any means.
Oh, yeah.
But, you've got, maybe there's something challenging about what you're trying to get through. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, it's going to involve some brainstorming and thought. But, let's say, for example, you just have a particular situation where it's like, man, how am I going to get this message across in a positive way? Let's take a step back. Tell me the process that you might utilize for something like that.
I would say a lot of that is going to come down to research around the topic, research around the interactions. Is it positive or negative? If it is negative, maybe we can learn something about it and maybe shed some lighter light on that negativity where we're calling out the negative before you do. And if we know the negative, then what we're doing is trying to set you up from an employee perspective to understand everything that's at stake before you even apply. And sometimes that creates, ups and downs in the applicant process. I remember doing an attrition rate video, and it was for an agency, and because people were taking on these roles, but they didn't actually know what was involved. And so they were quitting. By that time, the investment on the company is getting higher and higher because now you're starting the recruitment process again. So in that case, we made it too real. And then they had a lot of people scared of the roles. So we need to make the fine balance of some things are going to be tough and some things are not. And my phone
if that's for me, I'm not here.
That was my kid, and I didn't realize that my computer was connected to FaceTime.
It happens.
You could use that in the podcast. I'm sure everybody's
planning on it, right?
Yeah,
if it's my mom, my mom, tell her I can't talk.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold on real quick.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, sorry.
No, we're all good. We'll figure that out.
Yeah. That's the magic of editing.
I know. So one of the things I was thinking about when I was talking about the negative side, and again, not so much negative, and sometimes when you're even trying to get people to apply to work with you, a lot of times it's about recognizing, you don't want to work for that company because of this, but instead you want to work for our company. Like, we're better than them. And I think that's the thought process that some people might have, because it's, trying to get applicants in is difficult. And sometimes you want to be able to say, hey, listen, be careful who you're applying with, but at the same time, apply with us, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, the staffing industry has a very complex challenge where they're pulling the same people from the same, they're all recruiting the same people from the same pool. What I'm trying to say? So it's like, what's going to set you apart? If you all have the same job description out there, then what makes company A different than company B, different than company C? And it's going to come down to your brand reputation. And I think it's going to come down to how you position yourself for employees. One thing we love to do is case studies, like see somebody successfully move through the process from onboarding to how they were treated. All of that makes a huge difference. So you're not really, saying that you're better than the other company, you're showing them that you're better and that you deserve to have the higher paying clients maybe, or different clients or more clients, because what you're doing is creating the need for something different, which is what we try to position our clients as, because we work with multiple different staffing agencies. And it's easy to get into these templatized fashions where everybody has the same post going out. Maybe they all look the same. Maybe they're all about, there has to be different personalities set for each client. And so part of our process is going to be research, and asking lots and lots of questions of our key stakeholders to really get down to the passion, get down to why do they go to work every day, get down to why they're trying to field these recruits. Like, we really work hard to establish a brand personality for every client, because they may all do the same things, but if they all look the same, then you're just like throwing a noodle at the wall and hoping one will stick. But we want that interaction to be more powerful than just send it out to everybody and see what happens.
Lisa, you bring up a great point, because in the staffing world, and now I'm talking about how do you market to not necessarily the applicants, but also marketing to other companies, right? Because they will say you all fish from the same pond, and when you have the ability to articulate why your bait is different, or that the secret spots and you've got a fish locator to go find them, that's where the marketing comes in. And part of that is also making sure, and I think we talked about this offline, is making sure that as an organization that they have something that makes them, they have a differentiator, they have a proven process. And I'm sure that by you working with them on a proven process, when you're able to market that, that's one thing. That organization has to have the proven process and back that up. But no, I think these things are all very well on point. And I think that this industry, if there was a little bit of a miss, like in baseball, there's a hole in their swing where they just can't hit it no matter how hard they try. I think that an organization like 522 Productions could bring those things to the front, and you can probably help them try to hit those curveballs. With that said, what are some things that businesses should be doing right now to attract top talent through marketing?
I think right now, everybody needs to start thinking about how to incorporate video. And it's not just video, it's animated GIFs, animated icons. Any type of motion that you can include in your marketing channels is really going to stop somebody before they keep scrolling through. And if they're looking online, or if they're looking on their social media channels, having engaging content is what makes or breaks each of the organization strategies. And you can't all just do static images or stock or anything that doesn't feel authentic. You really have to push forward in a people first kind of presence. However, utilizing your tools, a lot of AI is being involved in this as well. And I love it, because it just makes you work smarter, not harder. And you get way more productive things that drive outcome, versus sometimes all the other stuff that you're trying to do that doesn't drive maybe the recruiting, marketing type of action that you want. So I would say the first thing, especially the staffing agencies, if we can start building unique content that also involves some version of video, I think that is going to be a miss. And you should really think about that type of investment to help drive your community to build a bigger audience. And this also is going to give you a bigger pool of recruits.
How about maybe any examples of staffing companies you're working with anywhere in the country? Maybe it's one, maybe it's a dozen, where you're trying to help them, build their brand up. Talk a little bit about maybe an example of something like that.
Yeah, we're currently working with quite a few agencies right now on different levels of packages. And some, we're going to be out west next week doing a 3-day shoot, and it's all user gen type of content. We're going to different client sites, warehouses, that we're going to be interviewing people about how the process went, the onboarding process. So we're going to start telling their story in real time to see real people, so they can see, helps to validate it, like I said. So in that instance, their package is really to humanize them, right? They have a very We're working on a website for them. I was going to say dry. I've said it to them before. So like, it's just, there's not enough meat to it. And so when you really want to educate people on who you are and what you do, we really got to work on specific wording that really drives that message for them. And another agency we work with, it's all social media. So all we do is, sending out posts 2 or 3 times a week for them. We use data to help drive the creative process for them. I think one thing that's really unique for them is that we create content in pillars. So we know that we have 6 themes that we're going to be hitting on the course of every quarter. And those themes all have equal weight, whether it's about benefits, if it's about the culture, or if it's about different clients, could be success story, right? We really want to create diversity in their content so that it is specifically helping them kind of get to the head of recruiting.
Okay. All right, let's take a step back. I am a owner of a staffing company. It's a nice company. I've got about 25 employees that work internally. I pay about 1,100 people a week, but I've been paying 1,100 people a week for a long time. I want to grow. I'm stuck here and I can't get any further. As somebody who's trying to grow their business and we're looking at marketing, am I better off focusing on getting applicants in as far as talent, or should I be marketing towards getting new customers? I don't know where to start.
So I am going to say you need to look like money to make money. So while you are recruiting clients and recruits at the same time, if you want to grow, we need to start positioning you for the bigger clients, right? Sometimes what happens, and we fall prey to this, is that I can do an animated video for a client and that's all they think I do. And there's so much more that I can do for them. So we need to start talking about this so much more for all of these agencies to get them to the next level. And then we'll define what growth means. Is growth means in sales? Does it mean in team? Does it mean, oh, it's always sales, but like everybody's, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Believe me,
is it a target number?
Yeah.
It's always going to come down to the number. So like, what are we trying to achieve? And what is realistic to achieve in a certain amount of time frame, given what we know we can achieve on that growth platform and the strategic outcomes for them. And then by that nature, we're setting everybody up saying, this is what we're targeting. This is what we're testing. If you are not growing, then you can fire me. If you are growing, then we're going to give you a different plan because we're going to change it up in a quarter too.
Okay, great. We're going to start kind of coming to a conclusion here. And this has been a great conversation. And I'm just thankful to have you on the Staffing Buzz Network. But Alisa, if you can give advice, maybe one piece of advice to a small or medium-sized staffing company, they're trying to improve both their recruiting and marketing, maybe something like a strong takeaway. What is something that you think would be, somebody's going to listen to this and a year from now are going to be like, yeah, Alisa was right about that one. What could that be?
Oof. It's like predicting the unknown.
Here's your crystal ball.
Yeah. Let me throw my figure. Gosh, the one thing I see often is compliance and being able to stick to it. If you have the resources or have a team member, let us build their team so that we can continue to build the presence online. But oftentimes, because they're smaller and they're trying to grow, they'll try something here. It didn't convert as quickly as they needed, or they'll go here. So it's a little bit of all over the place, but compliance and being consistent is no matter what level you are at, we need to be at, and we have to include video. I have so much data that proves that certain content is just going to be content to feed what I call the content monster. But then there's content out there that people are like eager for. They want to be educated. They want to be informed. So in order to do growth, we have to think about growth is like not only in the number, but in your brand as well. Because you can't still be the same company and then keep growing, right? The company always evolves. If you don't evolve to the next level of relevant or fresh innovation, then you're going to be kind of stuck.
If I'm an organization and I'm going to make an investment, I'm going to want to see a return on that investment. So I would think that there are ways that you're able to measure those things in your business because, like you had said, if you're not growing, fire me. So talk a little bit about how you're able to do that because that's always one of the biggest questions I have.
Yeah, and I think the misconception here is that it's going to be a quick win. Outbound sales, I think, Bob, we know that those could be quick wins, right? We're creating the opportunities right away. Whereas in marketing, it's a long-term play to build up the reputation for constant referral. And so the more that we can test how people are finding each of the staffing agencies, then we can start proving and measuring where the connectivity is, because the power of data, the power of AI right now allows us to track behavioral, actions online, which allows us to understand where they're coming from and what they understand about each of the companies. So if we're going to grow, we really got to employ some innovative technologies. If we're going to invest in the long-term play as well, knowing that the goals are going to change, but the outcome never will. It will always be to show the growth.
Thanks. Alisa Vossen is from 522 Productions. We're going to include, because we're going to have this on video and it's going to also be on all of the super cool podcast platforms that are out there. If maybe what's a good way, maybe just verbally put out a way for somebody to get in touch with you?
If you would like to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn at Alisa Vossen, and my email is directly on our website, as well as you can book a meeting at any time. Just go on my calendar. So I do a lot of calls with clients who are just figuring things out too. If they need guidance or if they have questions, that is also open to everyone. And I do get a lot of people book meetings just to talk through different strategies and what it potentially could look like and what their investment could look like too. So happy to have any chat to anyone who would like to talk more about it, because I love it.
Perfect. And if somebody's, following us on the Staffing Buzz Network and, our information is always out there, they can reach out to me personally and I'll make sure that you get directly connected to Alisa as well. But hey, thanks for being here today. And hopefully we can have you on again. And this was a great session. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Bob. It was really great.
Appreciate it. Alisa Vossen, 522 Productions. She's bringing a lot to the table for staffing, right? Those mid-sized companies, some smaller ones, heck, even some big ones that are looking for, they might have a marketing department, but you're looking for some innovative ways to strengthen your brand, be able to get more customers, be able to get more applicants through the door. I think it's a excellent resource to have somebody like Alisa and her team at 522 Productions. So make sure you seek them out and let them know that you heard about us, or you heard about her through the Staffing Buzz Network. That's where we are. So again, everybody, thanks for being here. Reminder, Bob Petke here, Chief Sales Officer, ABD. Our software is UltraStaff Edge. Do not hesitate to reach out. We would love to do a demo for you and really show you why a lot of people that have been on platforms for many years are making a switch, because we just continue to, I'll just say it straight, continue to invest in our programs and our products to make sure that we're giving you the latest and greatest technology. So with that said, until next time, thanks for watching us here and listening to the Staffing Buzz Network.